General Hospital spoilers reveal that Lulu is becoming increasingly obsessed with controlling the situation and uncovering Joe's true identity. From the moment she discovered the secret Brook had been hiding for years, she couldn't just sit back and let it remain buried. Lulu is certain that Dante deserves to know the truth, but above all, Gio needs to know about his origins and his real family. She feels it's her responsibility to act while Dante is still confused by this shocking news. But in her pursuit of the truth, Lulu only plunges everything into a complicated mess, causing trouble not only for Brook but also for Dante. Lulu has never been one to accept silence when something unjust is happening. She is outraged that Brook kept this secret for so long and is still hesitating to reveal the truth to Gio. Lulu believes this hesitation is unacceptable and that Brook is more concerned with protecting herself than thinking about her son. But what Lulu doesn't realize is that the more she pushes, the more pressure she creates on everyone involved, especially Dante. Dante was already reeling from the news that he had a child he never knew about, but things get worse as Lulu relentlessly pressures him. She wants him to face the truth immediately, act quickly, and not allow any delay. But for Dante, this is not a decision that can be made on the spot. He not only has to process his personal shock, but he also needs to consider the feelings of Gio, Brook and others involved. The tension between Dante and Lulu continues to rise as Lulu digs deeper into the past, forcing him to face the mistakes they've made. Lulu reminds him of the times he made wrong choices, the moments when he lacked decisiveness, and even the times he hurt her. She believes this time, he cannot hesitate, that he must fix his past mistakes by immediately claiming his role as Joe's father. But for Dante, it's not that simple. Dante can't handle the pressure of being pushed into a corner like this. While he understands that Lulu has valid reasons for urging him, he also has the right to take the time to process his emotions and make a reasonable plan. The more Lulu pushes him, the more he feels out of control. And when he's pushed to his limits, he might make rash decisions that he'll regret later. But Lulu doesn't stop there. When she sees that Dante isn't acting the way she expects, she decides to approach Gio herself. She believes she's doing the right thing, that she's only helping the child reunite with his real parents. But what Lulu doesn't realize is that her haste could destroy everything. Brook will definitely not accept Lulu interfering in this matter easily, and if Dante feels excluded from this process, he might cut ties with her altogether. Lulu is not only clashing with Brook but also unwittingly putting Dante in a difficult position. If she continues down this path, she risks hurting Brook and losing Dante's trust completely. The wounds from their past could be reopened, and if Lulu doesn't restrain herself, she could destroy any chance of Dante and Gio having a healthy father-son relationship. Lulu has never been someone to back down when she believes she is doing the right thing, but this time, she doesn't realize that the more she tries to control things, the more she makes the situation more tangled. If she's not careful, she might lose the very people she's trying to protect. Will Lulu realize that sometimes, she needs to let things unfold naturally, or will she continue to push everything into an irreparable tragedy? Lulu is adamantly demanding that Dante interact with Gio quickly and take on his responsibilities as a father. She believes Dante cannot keep avoiding or letting the past stop him from fulfilling his duty. To Lulu, this is not just about Gio having the right to know his biological father, but also about Dante needing to fix his mistakes, even if they weren't his fault. She sees this as an opportunity for Dante to build a real relationship with his son and doesn't want him to miss another moment. However, what Lulu doesn't realize is that the pressure she's placing on Dante is causing him unprecedented stress. He's still trying to process his emotions, trying to face the truth that he has a son he didn't know about for 20 years. But instead of being given time to absorb this and figure out the right path, he's being pushed by Lulu's urgings. This only increases Dante's anger, not just toward Brook but also toward those who knew about Joe's existence and deliberately kept it from him. Dante can't accept that both Lois and Martin knew about this secret but chose to remain silent. He feels betrayed, not only by Brook but also by those who should have spoken up long ago. When his anger reaches its peak, Dante can no longer control it and confronts Lois in a tense showdown. The confrontation becomes heated when he accuses her of conspiring with Brook Lynn to hide Joe's existence. He can't understand how Lois could have allowed her daughter to do this without thinking of the consequences. For Dante, this isn't just about being robbed of the opportunity to be a father, but also about the injustice to Gio, a boy who should have grown up with his father but was pushed into a life where no one told him the truth. Lois, despite trying to justify that she only wanted to protect Brook Lynn and do what she thought was best at the time, can't deny that she made a grave mistake. She tries to explain that Brook Lynn was too young and that keeping the truth hidden was the way to protect everyone, but those words can't soothe Dante's anger. To him, every explanation is just an excuse for the lies he's had to endure for 2 decades. But Dante's anger isn't just directed at Lois, he also confronts Martin harshly. When Dante goes to Martin to question his role in this situation, he realizes that this lawyer wasn't just an innocent intermediary. The fact that Martin recorded the information but deliberately left Joe's name out of the records makes Dante suspect that there was an underlying arrangement. Martin may argue that he was simply following his client's request, but that doesn't change the fact that he helped prolong this secret. Dante no longer wants to hear any more justifications. He's furious that a whole system of people around him deliberately kept this information from him, so that when the truth came out, he was the last to know. His emotional outburst creates a wave of tension not only between him and Lois and Martin but also within his own family. The biggest question now is whether Dante's anger will help him reclaim his place in Joe's life, or if it will only make things more complicated. Dante may be acting on emotion, but he also understands that if he doesn't approach Gio the right way, the boy may never accept him. This is not just a fight to regain the truth, it's a fight to rebuild a family that has been torn apart for 2 decades. But will Dante be able to overcome his anger and truly do what's best for Gio, or will this outburst push everything into an emotional storm no one can control? Dante is entering an entirely new phase of tension, as he becomes obsessed with the truth he has just uncovered. Discovering that he has a son who has been kept secret for 2 decades not only shakes his world but also plunges him into a deep identity crisis. Everything he once trusted, honesty, loyalty, close relationships with those he loved, now feels like a cruel joke. Not only has he lost 20 years of fatherhood, but he has also lost trust in those around him. Dante's anger can no longer be contained. He feels as though everyone has betrayed him in some way. Brook Lynn, whom he once considered a friend, has hidden this truth from him for 20 years. Lois, whom he always thought was a strong and steadfast woman, turns out to have been complicit in covering up the truth. Martin, a lawyer who should have adhered to professional ethics, chose to keep the secret and manipulate information. One by one, they all make Dante feel betrayed. But what hurts him even more is himself. He blames himself for not realizing sooner, for trusting those who decided to take away his chance at fatherhood. This obsession weighs heavily on Dante's mind, transforming him into a completely different person. If he had once been calm, able to control his emotions and think before acting, now he can no longer maintain that composure. He no longer wants to be passive, no longer wants to be the last to know what's happening in his life. He needs the truth, and he will no longer let anyone stand in his way. But it is this determination that creates an unprecedented wave of tension. Dante begins questioning not only Brook Lynn but also others in his life. He confronts Lois, demanding an explanation of why she aided in this cover-up. He forces Martin to face what he has done, demanding answers about why a lawyer responsible for protecting others' rights would intentionally hide such an important truth. But what makes everything explode even more is that Dante can no longer be patient. He doesn't just want to know the truth, he wants justice. Dante's transformation not only impacts Brook Lynn and Lois but also creates ripple effects within his family. His loved ones, who were accustomed to a calm and rational Dante, now have to face a completely different man. Even Sam realizes that Dante is changing in ways that are unpredictable. She worries that his anger might lead him to make wrong decisions, that he might hurt himself in the process of trying to reclaim what he has lost. Dante is not just angry, he is obsessed. Every thought of his revolves around Gio, around what should have belonged to him but was taken away. He can't stop wondering, if he had known about Gio earlier, what would their lives have been like? What has he missed over the years? How did Gio grow up without him by his side? And most importantly, would Gio be willing to accept him as his father? But the more Dante becomes obsessed with reclaiming his place in his son's life, the more he pushes everything into a dangerous situation. He starts acting more on emotion than logic, willing to do anything to make Brook and Lois answer for what they have done. He wants to control the situation, but he doesn't realize that this control might push him too far. If he's not careful, Dante might end up hurting the very people he's trying to reconnect with. This story is not just about a truth being hidden, it's also about how Dante is trying to find himself in a situation he never imagined. He is no longer a cop focused on his work, he is no longer a man who can control his emotions. He is becoming a father, a man fighting to reclaim what should have been his. But if he can't control his anger and obsession, can he truly become the father Gio needs, or will he only make things even more chaotic? Dante is entering a new battle, but this time, the enemy is not a criminal or a police case. This time, the enemy is the pain in his heart, the obsession that is weighing him down. If he's not careful, he could destroy his chance to connect with his son. But if he finds a way to control his emotions, to act out of love rather than anger, this could be his opportunity to rebuild a family he never knew he had. The question now is no longer whether Dante can find his son, but whether he can find himself in the process. His next actions will determine not just Joe's future but also his own future. Lulu is making a significant change, creating a new narrative to push Dante to face the truth and the responsibilities he can no longer avoid. She believes that Dante can no longer let his emotions dominate without taking decisive action, especially when it comes to Gio. However, what Lulu doesn't foresee is that by pushing Dante so hard, she has inadvertently thrust him into an emotional storm like never before, causing everything to explode in ways that no one can control. Dante has already been under immense pressure from the recent revelations. Discovering that he has a son who has been hidden for 2 decades makes him feel like everything in his life is unraveling. But when Lulu keeps urging him to act quickly, she inadvertently sparks a real explosion. She not only brings up his past mistakes but also tries to steer him in the direction she thinks is right. Lulu wants Dante to be a proactive father, someone willing to fight for his right to be Joe's father, but she doesn't realize that Dante isn't ready to do this the way she expects. The pressure from Lulu continues to increase as she begins to interfere directly in how Dante handles the situation. She constantly emphasizes that he needs to clarify things with Brook, that he must immediately assert his paternal rights and reclaim his place in Joe's life. She believes Dante cannot just stand by while his son still doesn't know who he is. But the problem is, Dante doesn't want to be controlled in this way. He doesn't want Lulu or anyone else making decisions for him. The relentless pressure causes Dante to become more volatile than ever before. He feels cornered not only by Lulu but also by the emotions he can't control. The anger, the hurt, and the obsession with what he has lost are causing him to lose his direction. And then, when Dante feels like he's been pushed to his limit, he can no longer keep his composure. An explosive confrontation occurs between Dante and Lulu when he can no longer endure her urging. He angrily retorts, declaring that he doesn't need anyone telling him what to do, that he will decide how to approach Gio in his own way. Lulu, unwilling to back down, insists that he is wasting time, that every second is an opportunity missed to build a relationship with his son. The tension between them erupts like an uncontrollable fire, and in that moment, Dante realizes that everything is going too far. But the problem doesn't end there. This emotional explosion from Dante makes everything even crazier than before. In his anger, he no longer thinks clearly. He begins making decisions he may regret later, possibly confronting Brook even more harshly or even directly challenging Lois and Martin to make them answer for the cover-up. But most importantly, this could affect how he approaches Gio. If he acts too hastily, if he lets his emotions completely overwhelm his reason, he could scare his son and push Gio further away instead of drawing him closer. Lulu has unintentionally created an explosion she never anticipated. She thinks she's helping Dante step out of his comfort zone, but she doesn't realize that this pressure is hurting him more than helping. Dante is not only put in a difficult position, but he also risks completely losing control. And if he doesn't figure out how to manage the situation soon, this story could head in a direction no one wants. The question now is not just whether Dante can find his son, but whether he can keep himself intact in the process. His next actions will determine the future of not just Gio, but his own future as well, and the future of everyone involved in this hidden truth. But when emotions overpower reason, when the explosion reaches its peak, can Dante control the outcome of this story, or will he push everything into an uncontrollable spiral?